What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yes, the August NES games got announced, and unfortunately it's not really what I think most people at least wanted, but they're definitely not games that you would expect. You probably can't guess them if you haven't looked them up yet, but we're going to talk about why next month is going to be a pivotal month for Nintendo, and we'll see what happens there. Also, some interesting stuff kind of came up on Twitter from FDG that brings into question about possible Switch Lite exclusive features. It's an interesting thought and idea that we'll take a look at there. And it looks like the Super Nintendo got an interesting idea for overclocking, and Call of Duty is really rivaling Battlefield now. We're going to go over all of that and more today, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news that just happens every day, it seems. Keep you up to date on all of that. We're actually going to start today with Cadence of Hyrule, as Nintendo tweeted out that there is a demo that is now available. And if you haven't played Cadence of Hyrule, I really recommend at least checking out the demo. I know there were a lot of people who weren't sure about it, and it's not completely an impulse buy price, but at least with a demo, which it should have launched with a demo. I know it has the Zelda IP attached to it, but I mean, for what's basically a rhythm style game like that, action adventure style, it's definitely something they should have put a way for you to try the game being a demo, but I think it's worth a shot. Take a look at it if you have not purchased it yet. I actually recommend buying it because I really like the game. It surprised me a bit because I'm not into those games, but it was really fun. It's worth checking out. Also, we had talked previously about Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD and how that's coming out at the end of October, but there was a question that most of us had who had at least played the game at one point. It was a launch title for the Wii, and it used a ton of motion controls to make everything work. Well, we had a new trailer come out, and it also looks like the motion controls are going to be pretty much ditched. There won't be any motion controls at all. They're just getting rid of them, and it seems like they're going to have it all mapped and working, all of those minigames, with just the analog sticks on your controllers. So despite the Switch having, of course, the Joy-Cons that can do motion, then we have the PlayStation 4 controller that can do motion. I guess because the Xbox One can't and the PC can't, and they're trying to put it on everything, they're just saying, you know what, we're just going to map it to the analog sticks, the mouse, the keyboard, or most people probably plug in a controller to the PC. But at least that's something. I thought it would have been strange to have the motion controls come back, and it sounds like they're reworking pretty much all of the minigames to make that actually work in practice. So we'll see. That's out at the end of October. Strange one still to pick out when there were some other ones from the GameCube era they could have grabbed, but hey, if it sells well, maybe they'll get those too. Also, we had talked about 13, which is an older cel-shaded style first-person shooter game that I really liked. It was from like the GameCube, Xbox, and I played it on PC, but it was from like that generation of systems, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and it was supposed to be coming out with a remake/remaster. I'm not really sure because they haven't shown any gameplay of it, so I don't know which way they're going with it. I like the sound of a remake with a lot of articles typing up right now, but most likely it'll end up being like a remaster or something. But originally supposed to come out November 13th. Microids has actually said that they are pushing it to 2020 for, in their words, adding more polish so that it can be a game that we can really enjoy. They were taken a bit by surprise with how excited people were for it, myself included. We covered it here, and I am ready for that, considering the GameCube version doesn't even support progressive scans, so it, even with like the Eon adapter, still doesn't look that great. I love the idea of this. I hope it has online multiplayer, but it sounds like we're going to have to wait a bit longer than I thought we would originally to actually play it. Also, if you're a fan of the Spyro and Crash series and you like the Insane Trilogy, you like the Spyro collection that they did there, well, you're probably going to be really happy to know that Activision, during their conference call that they had yesterday, which, by the way, they made a ton of money from microtransactions, go figure, but it sounds like they're doubling down a bit on the Spyro and Crash series. In fact, they talk about how they're going to look into doing some original content for those series, which tells me they're probably already working on a new Crash game, like fresh Crash game, and then a fresh Spyro game. They also talked about other remasters and remakes they can do, and I'm not really sure what Activision has in the tank for that, but maybe a few of you can let me know in the comments what you would like to see Activision remaster, remake that they own. But to hear that we could be going into next generation systems with a new Spyro and a new Crash game like flat out is cool. But I just saw what they did with CTR, with microtransactions being snuck in after the fact, so of course, we're all paying attention to Activision and what they could potentially do with possibly a AAA Crash and a AAA Spyro game. We'll see. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with a game that apparently I won't be seeing any standees for at Walmart, as they're strangely pulling anything violent from the floor. That'll solve all issues. Anyway, Call of Duty. Call of Duty is coming out, of course, we know, at the end of October, and it's looking pretty good. I'm actually kind of excited for the single-player campaign. The multiplayer, I saw what they did with Black Ops 4. I think I'm okay with the single-player campaign. However, the more I hear about it, the better it sounds, and the more it sounds like they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on Battlefield as they go forward. And here's the thing. I know it's Activision. I know they do the microtransactions. That's why I'm always hesitant on Call of Duty every single year. But I also have to talk a bit about what they're trying to do with these larger game modes. So they have Ground War, and that's going to be a mode where they say currently, with Game Informer actually trying it, 64 players in one match. They can go apparently up to 100 as they've tested more than 64 players. And if you really think about the rivalry between Call of Duty and Battlefield, the thing we always would say, whether it was back in the day with Battlefield 1942, for example, and even further up to where you got, like, you know, Battlefield 3, Bad Company 2, was that it was always a larger scale battle with Battlefield. And then it was always close quarters, smaller skirmishes with Call of Duty. But now we're getting to the point where you have those close quarter, small skirmishes, and then you also have these large maps in Call of Duty. In fact, they're going to have different control points. They set up to 5 in a match, and it's going to be massive. And there's going to be 64 to 100 players potentially in Call of Duty with all the kill streaks and everything intact. So it really starts to make me wonder if Battlefield is just, like, it's losing its unique flair now that Call of Duty is figuring this out. There's also a rumor that this Call of Duty would have a free Battle Royale mode next year. Whether that ends up being true, I don't know, we'll see. But to think of that being separate from it is a pretty good idea. However, we had Blackout mode, but I guess that's technically part of Black Ops 4, so I guess it won't technically intrude too much on it, just overall free Battle Royale. But still, to hear about large-scale maps, 64 players, I really don't know why I would necessarily play Battlefield unless I just like the mechanics to the game. That's all I can think of, because it doesn't have the large-scale battles exclusively anymore. Next up, let's talk about Super Nintendo games, specifically Super Nintendo Emulation. Now, of course, the emulation scene for all different platforms, there have been some really, really cool things, even up to, like, newer games like Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. They were doing, like, 4K, 8K, even, like, massive resolutions. They were putting characters from different games into it, working out 60 frames per second. They did all kinds of cool stuff. But I always like to see when, like, an older system really gets some shine and they figure out something brand new for a system that's, I mean, probably older than a lot of people watching this video at times, right? And that is the Super Nintendo, a system that most of us probably love at this point. Maybe bought the classic, or maybe we grew up with it, who knows? But what if I told you there was a way for you to actually play some of these games that were kind of choppy, had slowdown, but smooth now on your PC through an emulator called SNES? Because that's happened now. They figured out how to overclock without speeding up the gameplay. So before, if you overclocked a game like Star Fox, which is the prime example because that runs at a very low frame rate, right? But if you ever overclocked that, it would actually fast forward it because pretty much everything around it would be faster as well. But they figured out how to make it so that you wouldn't break audio or gameplay, and it's an interesting way that they've decided to do it. Here's some of the video of it running side by side. If you don't have this video set to 60 frames, I would do that so you can kind of get an idea of how this all works. And what they're doing is that emulator is inserting additional scan lines into the CPU thread without running the video and audio during this time, which makes it so that it can eliminate that slowdown through overclocking without actually breaking the game and making it run all weird and everything. And this is really neat. You could try this for yourself actually now. It's just in SNES, and you could check it out. Star Fox looks super weird, by the way. Way different from what I remember it, but really neat. And it makes me wonder if we could start getting this for other games that have tremendous amounts of slowdown. I know some PS1 games have had this for a while now, but to see a game like Star Fox from the old 16-bit era running smooth is very odd, but pretty neat. Next up, let's talk about the Switch Lite. That's out, of course, next month. Some people will probably pick it up, others don't really see a need for it. I'll check it out, obviously, because we gotta, look inside and see what's going on in there, but what if there was a way for developers to create features specifically for that device? I mean, it has a D-pad, it doesn't dock, the screen size. There's a couple things that maybe developers can take advantage of, but check this tweet out. This is, as you're seeing here, from FDG. And they said, "We have a fun idea for Monster Boy running on Nintendo Switch Lite. It's a nifty feature that nobody needs, but it has to be done. Patch 1.05 is in the works." And I was trying to figure out what this would be exactly. It could be something like fun, like they say it's something we don't need. So it could be something as little as maybe different color palettes that go along with the Switch Lite release colors, right? It has like that turquoise, that yellow, and that gray. Maybe for different characters or something. I also thought about the D-pad, but they actually said in the thread that it doesn't really have anything to do with the D-pad itself. So otherwise, I mean, you could take your own guess. We're going to wait for this patch to come out, and I assume it'll be out by the time the Switch Lite is ready to go next month. But if you really think about this, the Switch Lite screen is going to it's going to shrink from the regular Switch we know now, right? From 6.2 inches down to 5.5. So games like Fire Emblem, which by the way, the text in Fire Emblem needs to be blown up in handheld mode, and I can only imagine it's going to be worse when the screen goes from 6.2 to 5.5 because, well, then the text is going to be even smaller. There might be a need for patches for some games in handheld mode with small text specifically for the Switch Lite, and I do wonder if there is a way for developers to tell the game that you're running on a Switch Lite, or if it's something you'll have to do in the options. But I'm trying to figure out what ways developers can take advantage of the Switch Lite, and it seems like, at least for now, with Monster Boy, one game will right away. And you guys let me know what ideas you have, or if you think they're getting at something different completely. It seems like it reads pretty straightforward, and that's what they're going for, is the Switch Lite. But I'm trying to think of what other ideas developers could do and take advantage of what's going to be the cheapest Switch on the market, which, let's be honest, most likely means that's going to be the hottest selling system at Christmas, as multiples will be bought per household. So let me know what you guys think about that down below. I'm curious as to what ideas you have. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the NES Online Games that were announced for August, so this month. Yeah, they're announced now, coming out the 21st. It was interesting because they announced it on a Thursday. Usually they announce it on a Tuesday, but Nintendo just wanted to do what they wanted to do, I guess. But August 21st is kind of late in the month, but they put out a full video as well showcasing the different games that are coming. We have Kung Fu Heroes, and we have Vice Project Doom. Now, Vice Project Doom is actually rated fairly highly with a lot of collectors and people who play a lot of NES games, so that might be one to check out. I'm not too familiar with Kung Fu Heroes, and that's the interesting thing about this, by the way. They picked some kind of off-the-wall, kind of out-there games, not necessarily bad games, but just like weird games. I mean, a lot of people, we thought they were running out of games. Here's the thing. They didn't do Earthbound Beginnings, and I think that is just, it's so weird. And I think it's weird because it would have garnered actually some goodwill. I think some fans would have looked at that and said, you know what? That makes sense. I think that's the biggest thing here, is it just doesn't make sense for games like these to be, just announced. Whereas Earthbound Beginnings, okay, 30th anniversary of the Mother series, I get it. Earthbound Beginnings, we'll let it slide this month, I understand. Looking forward to next month. And now, why is everyone looking forward to next month? And that's because this will be the 1-year anniversary for that online application, which means most likely they'll sign a multi-million dollar deal to bring Silver Surfer as the additional game, and that's it from the NES. Now, the idea is that they'll do Super Nintendo games or Game Boy games, basically some new system, a fresh system, something else to look forward to, rather than say, oh, what NES games do we have? You go to, the announcement and say, okay, are we getting a Super Nintendo game? Are we getting a Game Boy game? Are we getting a Nintendo game? Like, it's just more interesting. And they can throw more curveballs at us if you get other systems involved, and that is the big thing. We believe that something new is going to happen next month because most people have their 1-year membership coming up. It's going to be due. They're going to have to renew them, and Nintendo will come up with something to get you to want to renew. There's a lot of people who aren't very happy with the service when you see it online, downvotes and everything on their videos. So hopefully Nintendo realized that. Hopefully they have something up their sleeves for the first year or the second year anniversary, the 1-year anniversary. We'll see. The reason I say that is because most likely there's going to announce 2 more NES games. We're going to go on business as usual, but Super Nintendo games. Come on, Nintendo. And let's finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one's from Anthony saying, new Switch XL March 2020 for the 3-year anniversary of the Switch. Sounds good to me. I don't know if it's going to be March 2020 in the 3-year anniversary. That might be a little too soon after Christmas. I could see them launching it maybe like before the PS5 or the Xbox Scarlet, just to put it out there and say, hey, we have this Pro model, or they'll call it the new Nintendo Switch, because technically the new Nintendo Switch, the Switch revision, isn't called anything other than still the Nintendo Switch in a red box. That's possible. I feel like they can't wait till the 4th year anniversary, though. I think they have to do it next year or just wait to next generation, right? Because at that point, you're going to release a Pro, and then like a year and a half later, you release the next gen system. What's the point? That's kind of, I think if they're going to do it, like I said, you're onto something. I don't know if it's going to be that exact 3-year, but I think after that, you'll at least see something from them if they're going to do it. I think it'd be good because I'd like a Pro model, but I understand Nintendo is targeting, at first, the Switch Lite crowd with a cheaper model. Maybe Nintendo look up into the more premium side, but that's not something they usually do, so it would be interesting if they took a shot at that, but I'm still on the fence about it, so we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the Super Nintendo overclocking, or are you curious to go back and look at some of the games that were just chugging along or slow down all over the place. Let me know how those all go. What do you think about next month for Nintendo Online? Do you think they have something up their sleeves, or do you think it's just gonna be 2 more NES games, then we just kind of roll along, and maybe they're even bad NES games? Man, that wouldn't be great. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.